Ohio State, Penn State. Ohio State didn't look great. Penn State's defensive line was able to, do some things up front. Penn State's front seven, including their linebackers, played really good. They slowed Ohio State's rushing attack tremendously in the first half. Took TreVeyon Henderson to the second half to get going. Now he finishes with over 150 yards rushing, but it didn't look as good. It didn't look as clean. And I think everybody was anticipating that team that was at Illinois, who gave up close to 350, 400 yards on the ground, and how dominant Illinois was pounding the football, just being content to grind that thing out. Penn State stepped up. It's always a big game, Penn State and Ohio State. And so they lose 33-24. But Sean Clifford showed me a lot. He played really, really tough. It wasn't an incredibly clean game by him. He's an Ohio kid, wanted to come in there, play hard and play well. I thought he did all that. And he gave his team a chance to win. And settling for field goals late is something that Ohio State is not going to be able to do against the likes of a Michigan and a Michigan State later in the year. They're going to have to turn those drives where they penetrate deep into opposing territory. Those have to be touchdowns. And we saw at Michigan State, they're converting touchdowns. Ohio State was not able to do that in a high clip in the second half. Olave looked pretty good. Ohio State's defense played pretty well, but there's still a little bit of meat on that bone. But the defensive line is continuing to come around. And even without Tyleik Williams getting a lot of reps or making any big plays, I thought that they've handled themselves and played pretty well. Some other, quick games in the Midwest. Wisconsin beating Iowa. Iowa looked awful. Couldn't run the ball, couldn't throw the ball. Wisconsin's finally got the run game going. Graham Mertz didn't play great, but didn't cost them the game. They went 27-7. It's going to probably come down to Wisconsin and Minnesota now for the Big Ten West title. If Minnesota hadn't lost to Bowling Green, you'd feel a lot better about them, but they're playing well. But Iowa has just faded so dramatically. It dropped back to 19th in the polls. And if Wisconsin would have played better early on, you'd feel better about them, but you're curious if that's still inside of them in that team that has struggled there. If you can take away their running game, how quickly does their defense wear down? And what does Graham Mertz do when he's not supported in a big way? Notre Dame gets a win over UNC. That's helping Cincinnati. It's their backstop. It is their most signature win. And I've said it before, I think Notre Dame's going to probably win 10 games, maybe even 11. They're not a great team, but they're better than just about everyone else on their schedule. And they don't play any of those elite teams this year. And so they're going to be fine. And they're going to probably win a lot of these close games the way that they've been doing with Virginia Tech, with North Carolina. They pulled away on USC, but that is going to be their recipe for winning. Brian Kelly's got this team playing pretty well. And, they're not a playoff team, but they're pretty close. And they're just on that first tier outside, I think, of, the top 5, 6, 7 teams, in college football.